be talking about what lambda is. What exactly is a lambda? You can say that lambda is a type of a function, but you can call it an anonymous type of function. What do I mean by anonymous? Means when we call it, when we talked about function, we have to first declare the function, then write it in a block of code, and then give it what should be executed under the function, and then print out the output. But when you come to lambda, using lambda is using like a function that you can use an inline function. Let's take it like that. You can assume it as an inline function. And how do you write lambda in Python? Just simple lambda. This is just and how does lambda being used? Lambda takes what is called an argument, then an expression. So these are two things that lambda takes in: an argument and expression. This is just basically what functions does. Let's now previously we talked about function. Let's create a function that times two numbers. Let's say function that times 7 times 3, for example. You get a function, let's call it times two number x, let's say s and y. And let's say return s times y. And then let's call this function times. Let's give it because what is actually happening here is that we created a function. This is how to create a function. We gave it the function a name, because a function must have the name. And we gave it these two parameters. Now we returned it. So anytime we call this function, we have to assign this parameter. We can assign it directly here. Let's say, for example, 7, and then we can assign here 3. But I would like to do it on the run process. So I'm going to give my x equals to 7, and then my y equals to 3. When I run this, okay, let me store it in a variable. Let me give it a variable. Let's say var. So I can print the var out. So you can see I got 21, which we know that 7 times 3 is 21. You can see that this took us almost 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of code, which can be a little bit long and it can be a little bit overwhelming at times. But this is where lambda comes in. We can use lambda to handle this type of basic problem. And how do we write it in Python? This is how I write lambda. Let's create a variable. Say lambda. Let me not create a lambda. And then what do we want? We want the x. Like I said earlier, lambda takes in. Let's say lambda. So lambda, it takes what is called an argument. And that argument identity was called an expression. So these are two things that lambda take. And this when you relate to this function, this is what is called an argument, and this is the expression. We don't know that expression is what is going to happen. That's just basically what the expression is. Argument is what is being taken by a function. So this x and y is an argument, like how we did in normal function. X and y is our argument. So how do we do that? We're going to write our expression. What do we want our expression to be is x times y, like we did here. And we can store it in a variable like we did, var, and then we can decide to print the var. And when we print the var, we're going to give it the argument. I want to give the argument its values. We know that x, we have the x here and the y, like how we did here, x and y. I'll give it x and y to be 7 and 3. I'll go x equals to 7 and then y equals to 3. Let's run this and see. You can see we were still able to get our 21 with just two lines of code. So what are the uses of lambda? Like as you can see here, we're able to reduce the amount of code we wrote. And another thing is that another advantage of lambda is that it makes our code looks is little bit neat compared to this buggy type. But what is the advantage of normal function when compared to this anonymous function, which is lambda? Lambda can be a little bit tricky at times. And when you write your code in this box, it's easier for somebody to understand at times compared to this. Lambda at times can be tricky. That's why it's hard, many times it's hardly used, unless in a situation you want to run your function just straight up. There's nothing really much thing to run about the function. That's all basically when we use Lambda. So this is one of the basic way we will use Lambda. Just know that Lambda, like once you know how to use this function, you should definitely know how to use Lambda. They both work in the same principle. Just that Lambda tend to make it shorter. So there are still advanced way to use Lambda, but I'm going to keep it short, like simple, like this, so it won't be overwhelming as a beginner. But in our future videos, when we make use of Lambda, we're also going to make use it for an advanced purposes. But most times, this type of function is mainly be used compared to usability of Lambda. Let's make another example. Let's say we have created a variable called f and I gave it 9, and another one, let's say k, and I gave it 6. So let me use it. I can say x times, let's say x times f, for example. Let me cover this. Let's say y times k. What is going to happen here is that x, which I gave you 7 here, is going to times this f, which is 9. Then it's going to be stored, and then this y is going to times k, and then they're going to be multiplied together. Let's run and see the output. You can see we got 1, 1, 3, 4. So we can type on a calculator and do the same thing. You should get similar output. So this is just basically how function Lambda works. Remember that Lambda is an anonymous function, and it can be written in a single line without the need for a block. So this is basically how it works. So there are still a lot of advanced way Lambda can be used, but we're going to keep it simple, straightforward as this. So let's not make things more complex. So I will think I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.